Hey, what's going on, guys? So, SM Nation, he asked me to record my thoughts on No Way Home. We just got out of the thing, as you guys can see, just got out of the movies, and that movie was amazing. It's like, if you have not seen this movie, you've got to go see it. Like, it might be the honeymoon phase, but I'm saying it now. This is probably the best Spider-Man movie of all time.
It was honestly phenomenal, from the acting, the editing, the effects. Everything was just such amazing. The characters and the plot was amazing.
I had high expectations for Spider-Man No Way Home, but Marvel absolutely blew them out of the water. Throughout the movie, we get to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man overcome obstacles, and by the end of the movie, we see him in an entire new light and as a new Spider-Man.
All old characters coming back. It was such a good movie. I love everything about it. Could be the best movie of 2021.
They absolutely were insanely ambitious with this movie, and I think they checked every single one of those boxes. It is 100% in my top favorite Marvel movies.
Could be the best Marvel movie of all time. This is definitely one of my favorite movies I've seen in a recent time.
10 out of 10 film, but you know, that may be subject to change later down the line, but as of this moment, greatest Marvel film ever created.
I don't want to spoil too much because I really don't know if this video he's doing is going to be a spoiler or not, so I'm not going to do any spoilers. I'm just going to keep it brief. Go see No Way Home. At this moment, I have no negative to say about it. It was such a fun experience. We got a bunch of pictures with the people that were cosplaying there. It was really just an enjoyable movie. Marvel did not disappoint, but thank you, Sterling, for inviting me out here and getting my first thoughts. Appreciate it.
Those were some people that I knew initial reactions and initial thoughts to Spider-Man No Way Home. I wanted to put out that separate video last night after I had seen the movie. I had ample time to do it, but because of the fact that I was a little bit surprised by how much this film exceeded my expectations, and I just couldn't write my script. I couldn't write my script for the review. I couldn't record my review after I seen the movie because it was everything that I've wanted. Me and my buddies saw No Way Home opening night yesterday, Friday, 5 p.m., December 17th. It was an electric experience. I gotta say, loved it, loved it, loved it. It was my first time going into a GTX theater. By the way, I've never been in a GTX auditorium before. Walking into GTX for the first time. Let's see. What's up here? What's up these steps?
Hey movie fans, I'm Maria Menounos, your host of Movie. Now we've made some changes around here, but one thing remains the same. I am so excited to bring you exclusive content, augmented reality games, endless movie trivia, and so much more. So settle in, relax, and tear into that popcorn. Movie starts right now.
Loved it. The whole theater was packed with Spider-Man fans. I'm here to talk about it. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. I'm going off script for this. My name is SM Nation, and these are just my personal opinions. You're free to comment down below. What did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home? The movie of the year, apparently. The best Marvel movie of all time, apparently. Please don't forget to check out that Marvel playlist up above, and also that Twitter that's going to pop up on your screen right now. And yeah, with that being said, let's move right into our review. The experience I had for Spider-Man No Way Home can never be outmatched. Infinity War, my favorite theater experience ever, got outmatched by No Way Home. So with that being said, let's move right into the good. And the good thing that comes to mind here is that this film is amazing. It's spectacular. It's fantastic. They did their thing with this movie. I loved it. I loved Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a crowd pleaser. So many moments in this film made me cheer. It made me tear up. It made me cry. It made me laugh. I loved everything about this movie. I did. It's crazy that I say that, because while I do love the MCU Spider-Man, I love him as a character, and I love Homecoming. It's my top 10. It's in my top 10 Marvel movies. Far From Home, for me, when I first saw it, I thought it was the best Spider-Man movie. And maybe I'm having that honeymoon phase with No Way Home too, because later down the line, I now think that Far From Home is really a step backwards from Homecoming. It's a little bit lower on my list now because of many problems, but also because of the fact that it felt like a safe bet. And also, mostly, it was just Peter Parker and his friend is on a field trip in Europe instead of actual Spider-Man stuff. With this film, easily, in my opinion, it's the best MCU Spider-Man movie we've ever got. By actually giving Peter Parker stakes as well as consequences and choices, he chooses to do everything that he does inside of this film. And then everything that he does has the consequences to that. Sometimes good consequences, but also bad, dramatic consequences for his character and for the people around him. It's exactly what I wanted from a Spider-Man film in the MCU and some. I wanted Spider-Man to have some MCU character inside of there, but also have his own film to stand on his own with. I wanted Spider-Man in the MCU to be his own man, and I really wish that they would have gone with that from the jump. But I really do like how they handle it inside of this film. Whereas in Homecoming, he decides to be a neighborhood Spider-Man, and then he gets dusted and then comes back, and then he decides that he doesn't really want to be Spider-Man at this point. I think him choosing to take on this destiny as Spider-Man and learning that there are going to be deaths, there are going to be tragedies. As Spider-Man, you have to know that that is a part of the job. And I love that they go that route with this movie because it's classic Spider-Man stuff. It's what I wanted. It's exactly what I wanted. Spider-Man inside of the MCU is a character that usually finds himself holding some bigger MCU character's hands in his film. With Homecoming, it was Tony Stark. With Far From Home, it was Nick Fury. In this, he finds himself all alone. His consequences outweigh his choices by far. I love the villains, all of them. They're great and they serve some narrative purpose. And they're not just some quick cameos or Easter eggs or just there for the references and the memes. I think that every villain inside of this film served a purpose for the story of Peter Parker, for this story inside of this film. Dr. Octavius was great. Green Goblin was amazing. Electro, he was fun. He was funny. I loved the villains, what they did with the villains inside of this film. And this is the first Spider-Man film to have all of these villains and actually have it work. Amazing Spider-Man 2 tried to do it, drastically failed. Spider-Man 3 tried to do it, drastically failed. With No Way Home, they found a way to rope all of these villains and all of this multiverse cataclysmic stuff inside of this film and still make it about Peter Parker at the end of the day. They have arcs. The villains have arcs. They have personality as well as character. We get to see that through the dialogue, and I get why they brought in the villains to give him more character development. I just loved every bit of that. One of my fears going inside of the film was that they were going to treat his secret identity being exposed as a joke. They were just going to write it off at the beginning of the movie like, oh, it was just a scroll. The scroll just shapeshifted into Peter Parker. I like the fact that his secret identity being exposed wasn't played off as a joke. It's something serious and it affects him and also the people around him. It affects everything that's going on in their lives and their future. I also really enjoyed the final battle. Though it is another CGI battle, it was astounding. It was incredible. It was amazing. Everything about the final battle I loved. And it's weird that I say that because every Marvel movie this year had the big CGI final battle. I didn't like that part of the movie. With the third act, I loved the third act and I loved the ending. Somebody that is in this video there at the beginning had some negatives about the ending, and I understand their negatives about it. Honestly, I love the ending. It's exactly what I wanted from a Spider-Man movie because I wanted him to be on his own, broke, classic Spider-Man stuff, just swinging around New York City, saving the little guy. I just think the ending of this film is great. Something my friend actually brought up to me is that they treat it like an origin story. This movie is kind of like an origin story, and you can see that. I can't move on without talking about the brutal action. The action is brutal. We have some very emotional moments inside of this film. Probably the most emotional Spider-Man film to date. Every character has something emotional going on with them, and it works. It works because we love these characters. And going back to the brutal action, when I say brutal, it is brutal. This is the most brutal action I've seen in a Spider-Man movie. They throw Spider-Man through everything, and I loved it. I loved it from the moment the movie started to the moment the credits started rolling. this film is great. But I have some negatives. It's not perfect. It's not the perfect Spider-Man movie, and I wish it was, but it's not. So let's move right on to the mixed. And the mixed thing that comes to mind here is that the first half isn't as great as the second half. And I've watched Sean Chandler's review. He did say this inside of his video. And let's get something clear. I usually don't like to watch other reviewers' opinions on the movies that I see before I write my own script and before I record and put out my own review. I don't really like to watch the reviews because of the fact that I'm easily persuaded to put whatever nitpick that they have inside of my negatives, or to put any other positive that they have on the movie, despite me actually being negative on that. So sometimes the reviewer, like Sean Chandler, will like something that I didn't like, or sometimes I will love something that Sean Chandler didn't love. If I watch his review, I would try to sway my opinion to try to go that route because I want to please everyone. And when you're doing something like this, you want to please everyone's opinions. But honestly, I've been trying to not do that because I don't want to appeal to everyone's opinions. I want to have my own opinion. And sometimes my opinions line up with Sean Chandler's and John Campia's, and sometimes they don't. And that's okay. But just like Sean Chandler said, his point was clear, and I agree with it a lot. The trailers didn't show a compelling enough story. What they actually showed was multiverse madness and Peter Parker not shedding up during a spell. The film shows in the first half Peter Parker is dumb. When I say dumb, I mean he's very anxious, and the whole reason the multiverse is messed up, the whole reason why the villains are coming into this world is because he wouldn't shut up during Doctor Strange's spell. But the simplest solution to his problem is to wipe everyone's memory, including Doctor Strange. And since Doctor Strange is an Avenger, Doctor Strange knows that Spider-Man is an Avenger. He knows Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. He knows Spider-Man helped out with the Avengers. If Peter Parker just exposes his identity to Doctor Strange, that's not a big thing. What if he just tells Ned again? What if he just tells MJ again? He could even tell May again. And even inside of the movie, they explicitly say, this is not a spoiler, they explicitly say that he doesn't want to go through that whole thing with May again. And I get that. I honestly get that. If that's the case, don't tell May. You know, for some reason, it felt like they wanted to get to this second half, because the second act and the third act are just great Spider-Man stuff. The first half, it was a little bit rocky trying to get to the second half, and especially the third act. And to me, I really believe that they wanted so hard to have a reason to get to that third act, to have a reason for his character to be the way he is at the end of the film, that they just completely wrote Peter Parker as a dumb character in the first half of this film. Which, why I put it inside of mixed, because I'm very negative on that sense, but also, it didn't really hurt the movie for me. So it's not a bad of the movie, it's a mixed of it. I'm very torn on it, because it didn't take me out of the experience of the film. I was following along with the story. Multiple times I was like, okay, why not just tell Ned again? Why not just tell MJ again? But it didn't really hurt the movie for me. In conclusion, Spider-Man No Way Home was an excellent experience. The crowd was more hyped than Endgame for me. And Endgame wasn't even my favorite theater experience of all time. It was actually Avengers Infinity War. No Way Home beat that now, because after the film, you know, all of my theories were correct, and my friends' theories were correct. We got to take pictures with freaking Thanos, and we got Venom, and I got knighted by Thanos. Like, that's so cool. Like, I went up to Thanos, I kneeled before him, and he knighted me. I am now a child of Thanos. I am a part of the Black Order. We're going to talk about this movie on the regular podcast with more spoilers, so go over there to the regular podcast for that. Link is always in the description. But I gotta say, the surprises, the twists, the action, the emotional moments, all of it culminated and somehow worked to deliver an MCU Spider-Man movie that I've wanted for years. Jon Watts, I didn't think he had it in him, because his MCU Spider-Man films have mostly been safe bets. This film changes that. It's drastically different from the first two films. It's the best of all three films. And because of this film, I am excited with what he does with Fantastic Four. And I already know some people have already forgotten that they picked John Watts to do Fantastic Four, but he's doing that movie. And because of his work with No Way Home, and because of his work with this entire trilogy, I am ecstatic to see what he does with Fantastic Four. And I can't wait. At the end of this film, after 5 years, Tom Holland finally becomes Spider-Man. I really love this movie. I gotta say, it's a A+ for me, and a 9.5 out of 10. 9.4 and 9.5 out of 10. Definitely see this movie with a huge audience in the biggest theater ever. Just don't miss any second of it. It is a really, really, really great Spider-Man film. Alright guys, that is it for the review. Please know that everything that I did say in this video was just my very own opinion. You are free to comment down below. What did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home? The film of the year, apparently. The best Marvel movie of all time, apparently. The best Spider-Man movie of all time, apparently. Comment down below your thoughts on the film in the comment section. Please don't forget to check out that Twitter that's going to pop up on your screen right now, and also that Marvel playlist. That link is always in the description. Go over there to the regular podcast where I'm going to be doing a spoiler review with my podcast buddies, and also come back to this channel for Spider-Man rankings. I'm going to do the villains, I'm going to do the final battles, I'm going to do the movies, and then come back next week for the biggest Marvel ranking ever, where I'm ranking all the TV shows and all of the movies, and then I'm going to rank all the DCEU stuff and incorporate it in it at the end of the year. Just come back for more content. With that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Peace.